You know, I make a whole lot of comparisons to Donald Trump, Maga, and the WWE because it's pretty much what they are. They're the WWE of politics. But Charlie Kirk, the youth pastor for Maga, he takes it to a whole nother level because Turning Point USA is out there. Every week you see them at events. Charlie Kirk is constantly going out there. He'll go out to a college. He'll pull up a chair. He'll plop down on a chair. He's always trying to get corn out of his teeth. I don't understand that about him. But anyway, I can't get past it either. Uh, Anyway, he will go out there, he will plop down on a chair while he tries to dig corn out of his teeth, and he will sit there and let somebody bring facts and evidence and truth in front of him, and he will just sit there and deny it with his fingers in his ears and just come back with some of the most hateful and racist and bigoted ideologies you ever heard, and just spew conspiracy theories. And he calls it facts, and people calls it debating these days, and that's the shape that America's in at the moment. But also, when it comes to Turning Point USA, and it's really unfair to compare them to the WWE because at least the WWE over the years has given us some pretty entertaining moments that we can all look back on. And, you know, I look back on certain things when they play the old reels and they go, oh man, I remember that. That was so badass when the Macho Man won the world title at WrestleMania 4. I can look back on that. But when we look back on Turning Point USA, it's just going to be that they brought out the absolute worst of the worst. And speaking of the worst of the worst, here you go.
For these people that want to complain, that want to sit back, who want to cry, who want to talk about how hard it is. I'll tell you what we'll do for you. You want to talk about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion? Yeah, you do need DEI because you're inferior. Yeah, you need it. I don't need it. You walk into my world with a DEI stamp on your chest, and I'm going to slit your throat. I want to see you come telling me you didn't earn it. I want to see you come into my world talking about I need respite and I need a handout. Yeah, I'm going to be smiling at you, boy.
Yeah, if you come around him with that DEI stuff, he'll slit your throat. That is the type of people that Charlie Kirk will give the microphone to. But what I would love to point out to that dude is this. If Charlie Kirk didn't know him and Charlie Kirk was to get on a plane and just look and see him and realize that he was his pilot, Charlie Kirk said that black pilots make him nervous. So the only reason that guy is there, speaking of DEI, the only reason that guy is there, it's not because he's qualified. It's not because he has anything of any value to say. It's that he will sit there and spew the same hateful rhetoric that Charlie Kirk will. That's the only reason he's standing there. Because if he was anywhere else, Charlie Kirk would be 100% against him. If all of a sudden, let's say that guy had a job somewhere and something went wrong and you found out that guy was the head of the department, Charlie Kirk would be saying he's a DEI hire. You should have got him out of here. He should have never been allowed in there. And that's the problem with Charlie Kirk and his whole DEI argument and the DEI argument in general that they make. Because whenever something happens, if a plane crash happens and the pilot was black, or if something happens and the manager of the place was black, before they even know who the person is or anything about him or any qualifications at all, they go, that's a DEI hire. And I'm like, no, you're a racist, flat and simple. There's no other way to put it. Because I could look at every member of the Trump cabinet and I could say none of them are qualified. None of them are qualified. They're all white and so am I. And none of them should be there. None of them should be anywhere near a position of power, but they are. So when you sit there and say, well, hey, we stand against DEI, and if you come around us with DEI, we're going to slit your throat. Well, let's think about it. Let's just break the words down here for a minute, okay? So the first word is diversity, all right? What's the opposite of diversity? It would be uniformity, which means overall sameness, which is MAGA. They're overall the same. If you've seen one or talked to one, you've talked to them all. They don't have an original thought. It's whatever Donald Trump says goes, and they will change on the fly. We've sat back and watched them jump through the hoops of the mental gymnastics over and over again. I could talk about that all day, but it's whatever daddy says, and that's what they call him. I don't. They do. It's whatever their daddy says is what they'll do. So overall, they're the same. The other word is equity. What's the opposite of equity? It would be inequity, which is lack of fairness or justice. Well, when it comes to MAGA, we never see fairness or justice. When it comes to MAGA, they're always on the opposing side of any fairness and justice, because while they sit there and thump their chest and call themselves the rule of law party, and we're all about backing the blue, they're the ones that have pardoned more violent criminals and supported it. They're the ones that went to the Capitol and tried to overthrow it. I'm never going to live down. I know some people says, Brando, you sure bring up January 6th a lot. Let me tell you something. I'm 45 years old. Yes, I know I look older. But if I'm still alive at 65 years old, I'll be sitting in a chair somewhere saying, yeah, January 6th. I promise you, I will never forget that day and what they did, and the fact that Donald Trump went on to pardon those criminals and let them get right back out to do more crimes. So they have nothing to do with fairness and justice. They're all about the lack thereof. And then the last part of that, so you got diversity, equity, and inclusion. Well, the opposite of inclusion would be segregation. And we all know that when Maga says we want to make America great again, what they really mean is we want to go back to a time when white rich men ruled the world. When women stayed quiet, they didn't have a say over anything. When gay people and trans people all stayed in the closet, and when the black people couldn't vote. That's it. And you know, sometimes when it comes to Charlie Kirk, I'll be honest with you, I didn't cover him for a long time. Like, I really didn't. I would see him, and I didn't take him seriously. To me, he was low-hanging fruit. And I feel that way about a lot of people. That's why I'm not over on TikTok doing the thing that they love to do over there, which is just, you know, go after some moron that's like, why are we talking about this person? It's low-hanging fruit. We got bigger fish to fry here. Why are we wasting our time talking about some drunk? So, you know, I seen Charlie Kirk for years, and I would look over and I go, who is that moron? And I wrote him off, and then Coach D started telling me one day, he goes, no, you need to pay attention to this dude. You really need to pay attention to what he's saying. He's saying some really dangerous shit, and he's got a crowd. He's got an audience that's getting into it. And I was like, oh, really? I wasn't taking him serious. I got to be honest, I wasn't, because it's just everything he says is just so over the top ridiculous. Why would anyone take him seriously? So yeah, I did have notes for anyone at Maga. I had the notes there to remind myself to say the opposite of DEI and what the definitions were. But anyway, I saw Charlie Kirk. I never took him seriously, and then Coach D said, you need to take him seriously. And then the more that I watched him and listened to what he had to say, and the more I saw his style of how he goes out there and sits down and, you know, talks with people with no evidence whatsoever, just throws out whatever bullshit conspiracy he wants to. And I realized just what a movement he really had started. That's when I started to pay more attention to him. Now, I'm never going to sit down and talk with the dude. I'll go ahead and say that up front. I have no desire to talk to him whatsoever, and I will always disagree with Gavin Newsom for doing so. If that's what you feel like you need to do, go for it, but I'm not going to do it. But what I will say is this. We could take notes from that, and I don't mean the bad stuff. But if he's going to go out there and turn politics into the WWE and politics into a racist, homophobic, bigoted, conspiracy theory spectacle, if that's what he's going to do with politics, then we need to be out there every day hitting the pavement just as hard on the opposite side of that and standing up for DEI and being proud of the fact that we're woke. I'm sick and tired of that word being demonized. I really am, because if we're going to do the opposites, the opposite of woke is asleep. And I know that's where MAGA prefers to stay. I understand they prefer to just be over there asleep and ignore everybody's problems and think they're the only ones that lives in this world, but they're not. So we should never borrow from any of Charlie Kirk's bad habits. But buddy, he's dedicated, and he's dedicated on the wrong side of history. And he will go out there and he will absolutely pound the pavement. And he will sit down and spew his bullshit from one end of this country to the other. And meanwhile, and he's got all the confidence in the world. His chest stuck out with all the confidence in the world. And meanwhile, I know smart, intelligent people who are leaps and bounds ahead of anything I could ever think of, but they don't have it in them to get out there and talk, because it's like, well, what's the point? They've gave up all hope. And that's a sad place to be. It's a sad place that we let it come to this. It's a sad place that we're letting people like that just run wild and just go out there and go crazy. And we're not looking over at it and going, wait a minute, we're on the right side of history. We have the good ideas. Our ideas are more popular with the American people. All they've ever gave their people is culture wars. All they've ever gave them is some sort of fake outrage. Yeah, I mean, if you follow after Maga and you listen to Charlie Kirk, you've probably burned a Carhartt jacket in your lifetime instead of giving it to somebody that could use it. And you probably poured out your Bud Light beer. You probably stopped shopping, which you probably never was going to Target to start with, but you probably stopped looking at it when you drove by, and you probably never drank a Starbucks in your life. You get what I'm saying. All those people have ever give them is just conspiracy theories, lies, misinformation, fueling their hatred. What we need to do is get out there on the right side of history and talk about the issues at hand and let the people know that, hey, these people are just brainwashing you with a bunch of distractions. Donald Trump and MAGA is all just one big distraction. We're the ones over here that wants a living wage. You can't get ahead in this world because for some reason, some Einstein somewhere thinks that 725 is still fair in 2025. Anybody I would never, if someone said to me, I think that she can't raise minimum wage, man, I'll lose much, buddy. It's 2025, okay? It is 2025. If you're still making that argument all these years later, please come up to reality. Come up to the real world. We'll welcome you to the table. Just come on up and sit down to the real world. But we're going to be talking about the living wage. We want to see people paid and treated fairly. We want to see women have control over their own bodies. We want to see the gay and trans community treated equal, and we're not going to leave them behind just because somebody says, oh, well, you got to realize there's a lot of people mad about that. Yeah, well, fuck off with that. I totally disagree with that. I hear that a lot on the Democratic side, like, well, we have to realize that pisses a lot of people off. It pisses a lot of people off that immigrants come to this country. Hey, get over it. Because we're going to stand up for people, and we're going to be there for immigrants coming here, wanting to make a better way for themselves. We're going to be here for the gay and trans community. We're going to be here to lift up groups of people. We're going to be here to move the country forward. And we're going to speak up for DEI, and we're not going to be ashamed of being woke. And we're also not going to be ashamed of being liberal or progressive. Because again, just pull out a dictionary. That's literally what I do. And I'll tell you, the first time I ever heard the word liberal said, I was a little kid, and I hadn't heard the word. I was a little kid, and I went to church. And the minister that I sat under, he's no longer with us, but the minister I was sitting under was a pretty old man at the time. And he's preaching. At the end of the service, he did his altar call and all that. Now it's just time to go, basically. But he said, before I go, he said, I'm going to bring a good friend of mine up on this stage. I want him to walk up here. And the guy that walked up there shocked all of us because we was like, we couldn't believe he would come to church or be part of this. So he gets up there, and the minister put his arm around him, and he's like, this here is my best friend in the world, even if he is a liberal. And I remember going, what's a liberal? Like, what is a liberal? And I thought about that. So I didn't say anything. I went home, I pulled out my dictionary, and I looked up the word liberal in the dictionary. And it said, someone who is open-minded and willing to change. And I never looked at that minister the same way again.